Welcome back to Taj's Garden. I am the garden realtor, and today we're going to be going over the 5 seed starting mistakes that every gardener is going to want to make sure that they avoid. Number one mistake that you do not want to make is choosing the wrong soil. When you are starting seeds indoors, you're going to want to make sure that you choose a seed starting mix. This is the one that I use. It doesn't have to be the same brand. The reason you should always make sure that you choose seed starting mix is because it's light, fluffy, it holds on to moisture, but it also is easy draining so you don't drown your seedlings. Another thing that is really good about seed starting mix is that it's supposed to be sterile, so that guarantees no weeds, pests, or fungus gnat eggs. You're going to want to make sure that you pat it down so that it prevents the soil from collapsing once you water it. I always start by watering it with some boiling water just to guarantee that it's sterile and to moisten the soil. If the soil has been dry for a really long time, then chances are the soil could be hydrophobic, and if so, when you water that soil, it's not going to absorb that water correctly. Speaking of watering, that brings me to my number 2 mistake: underwatering or overwatering. The seedlings are so tiny, so they don't really need a lot of water, but you don't want to make the mistake of underwatering them as well. I would say set a watering schedule. What I do is I have a gardening schedule in my phone on a calendar, and I tend to put, you can hardly see that, but I put what days I'm going to plant certain plants. Whenever I water the seedlings, I put that in there, watered this plant on this day. Whenever I fertilize, I fertilized on this day, so that I prevent the risk of overwatering, underwatering, or fertilizing way too much. So if you don't have a calendar to put that in, you want to make sure that you write your notes on that. Another thing is, just like in the garden, dig your finger into the first layer of that soil and see if it's moist. That's the same thing you want to do with your seedlings, but you're just going to want to make sure that you do it gently because your seedlings are fragile. Mistake number 3 is planting your seeds too deeply. A good rule of thumb is you want to plant the seeds at least twice their size. For smaller seeds, you can just sprinkle it on the top of the soil and gently press it in, and that'll be fine. The issue with planting your seeds too deeply is if you plant them too deep, then once they're starting to sprout, they won't have enough energy to reach to the top of the soil to get that light. Therefore, in the process of trying to get to the light and absorb energy, they will end up dying off before they get there. Speaking of light, that brings me to the 4th mistake, which is not giving your seedlings enough lighting. Seedlings are going to need a lot of light to absorb that energy. Lights indoors will not in no way compare to the light outside. For example, if you plant your seedlings outdoors, you'll see on certain seed packets that it'll say that a plant may need 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. If you were to give that same plant 6 to 8 hours of light indoors with just a standard grow light, they will never be able to absorb the amount of energy that they need because the sunlight outside does not compare to the grow lights indoors. So that means you're going to want to make sure that you get a grow light that mimics the daylight outside in strength. However, I want you to keep in mind that even though the goal is to get a grow light that mimics the daylight outside, there is nothing that is going to actually be as strong as the sun. That's the reason why when you get these grow lights, you're going to want to start them at least 2 to 4 inches away from your plant, and in comparison, the sun outside is at least 93 million miles away from us, and we can still feel the strength of that sun. So when you're looking for the correct lighting, you're going to want to make sure that you pay attention to the luminescence and the Kelvin. You want to make sure that the lumen is a minimum of 2000, no less than that preferably, and you want to make sure that your Kelvin is between 5 and 6500. The Kelvin is going to be the measurement of your light spectrum. So 5000 to 6500 is going to be considered full spectrum, and that is what you want. The Kelvin is going to be what the plant uses for photosynthesis and plant growth. These are mine. I purchased mine from Amazon. You can get yours from anywhere. I normally choose not to get anything that says grow light because you will be paying for that name technically, but you just want to make sure that you get something with the correct settings. That is what is most important. If you want to know where to get the specific grow lights that I am using, the link to my Amazon storefront is right in the description below. My last mistake is planting your seeds way too early. And I see this time and time again in the gardening groups that I am a part of. People tend to plant cucumbers and other cucurbits way too early. They tend to not look at the amount of weeks it takes before transplanting them outside. If you compare them to a tomato, they are very, very different. A tomato could take up to 8 weeks before it needs to be transplanted outside, and a cucumber grows really, really fast. It could be transplanted outside within 3 weeks. So you're going to want to make sure that you pay attention to the backs of the seed packs, because it'll tell you, if you're starting indoors, how many weeks you want to start them before your last frost date. So pay attention to the timing of when you're planting these seeds. And that is the 5 mistakes that every gardener is going to want to make sure that they avoid when seed starting. If you have any questions, please comment down below. Let me know what you have a question about. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, like, and share this video, and see you next time.